For Itachi.
Itachi above Oro.
What did you just say?
Itachi above Oro.
Itachi above Orochimaru?
Yeah.
And why does that mean Itachi above Hiruzen?
Hiruzen and Oro are not only stated equal, but are shown to be equals.
When are they stated to be equals?
Data book. Maybe it's fan book 1.
Show me the statement, please.
Oh. Okay, 1 second. Alright. I couldn't find like a very high quality one because I haven't argued this in forever, but 1 second. For some reason, do you have Discord?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not letting me use green screen. Just drop your Discord. Bet. All right, I sent it too.
So Orochimaru relative to Hiruzen is your claim?
Yes.
Yeah, it just seems like this is conditional and state dependent. Is
Okay.
like and like the Itachi over Orochimaru is like a situational interaction. But let's get into with the data book because I'm aware of this book page. I didn't think you were gonna send this one. Uh, I mean, what it's actually saying about Hiruzen Saratobi versus like Orochimaru is per se, it's saying that both were extremely powerful ninja. Then it also says that two shinobi were equally matched and the battle seemed endless. That is explicitly like descriptive of that fight inside the barrier under those conditions. It doesn't really say Orochimaru is categorically equal to Hiruzen
Mm.
across states though.
What do you mean by across states? What other state does Hiruzen have?
When I say when I say across states, what I mean what I mean necessarily is I'm just saying quote unquote cross states just means you are treating statements under one concrete condition set. That concrete condition set. I don't know if you're like, are you privy to like set theory?
No, not
Okay, no, that's
particularly.
fine. We can just talk about sets because I'm pretty sure everybody should know about a set and what goes into a set. So that like let's let that you remember that condition chapter 140 something I think or 120 whatever that condition you're treating statements made under that one concrete condition set as if they automatically apply to all other condition sets.
I didn't
So
ever say that.
if that's not the case, then what a state what a state would mean, and we can go into what a state would mean in the debate as well before we can get into that. So a state, I can define it as it's the total bundle of conditions under which a character is operating. So like if like let's say like there's physical conditions, chakra reserves, mental and emotional constraints, tactical intent, time horizons, or risk tolerance, availability, techniques like that
Hmm.
actually being used. If two characters are quote unquote equal in one state, that tells you nothing about other states unless the text explicitly says the equality there persists across them.
Well, by states, if you just mean like what statistics, like specific statistics you have, it doesn't really matter to me. Like obviously, it's just referring to like your general stats. We see them to perform general relativity. So that's all I'm arguing for right now. Is pretty much speed. I don't care about anything else for now.
The
Just saying
general
speed.
relativity.
Yeah,
Okay.
speed.
So that's a problem as well because I mean, when you say general relativity, it confuses me, but I think I can understand
But
what you're trying to
it
say.
can just apply to speed as well right now. Like that's just one thing it should object to. Like it should just clearly apply to speed at least, bare
But
minimum.
equally matched still doesn't mean, if you're just going off these statements entirely, equally matched still doesn't mean equal speed.
What
So I mean,
what does that
when you're
mean
trying to
then?
find a equally matched in the book, like okay, the global fight description, it could be about jutsu variety, counters, experience, tactics, stamina, pacing, knowledge of each other's kit, ceiling threats, environment. You can't really license or lawfully infer. Therefore, their movement speed is equal.
Well, we see that. Well, for one, we see their movement speed being relative in the fight, and for two, um, none of those are mutually exclusive with speed. It can just be those things and speed. So
That's very like that's okay. When you say we see, because like so saying that the scriptures there are like not mutually exclusive with speed is just not enough though because not non-exclusion it doesn't really establish entailment so
yeah, of
compatible
course,
with speed doesn't equal about speed
of
though you
course, of
know
course.
so if you're making the inference because you're making the inference that the fight was evenly matched the descriptions of the fight the descriptors there could include speed therefore speed parity is established there uh, the textbook that's like I would say that's a non sequitur because the logical form check is just basically P is compatible with Q, therefore P entails Q, and
Mm.
that form is invalid.
It
Compatibility,
ignores it completely ignores the fact that I told you that they're relative in speed in the fight.
they're relative in speed in the fight.
Yes.
So how so under all states?
Well, what do you mean under all states?
I already explained that. Wait, I can explain it again. It's fine. What I mean by states, I was talking about physical conditions, tactical intent, time horizons, risk tolerance, available techniques actually being used, environment and
What does any of that have
restrictions.
to do with speed?
What does a state have to do with speed?
Yeah. Well, any of those states that you're describing.
Well, they are relevant because speed is not a floating stat. It's not something that we're just because it's state dependent. Speed is state dependent. So saying they are relative in speed without fixing the conditions under which the speed or that speed was expressed and is meaningless because what state or what under a state is when I say under a state or a state means for like speed, if we can just juxtapose it to speed, not juxtapose, we could just put it to speed. A state, it's not other stats. A state is like I can define it as the conditions that determine how speed is expressed. So for speed specifically, particularly, the state includes we can talk about reaction windows, chakra availability, for movement techniques. So if any of these things like differ, and the effective like speed that we can talk about, you observe like the thing that you're observing can differ even if the character's theoretically ceiling does not.
Oh, well, no, that's fine. I mean, I'm just talking about the general speed in terms of combat. We see them being relative.
We see them being relative, like.
Yep.
I mean, when I'm gonna assume. I'm not gonna try like be like, oh yeah, show me this panel. I read it like 50 times. Generality, because like, sorry. I mean, the word relative. The only thing that it licensed here is that when the text or the narration says two characters are evenly matched, or when we see it in the fight, it licenses the thing that the fight outcome was balanced under those conditions. I mean, when you say, sorry, when you say like their combat speed is relative, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean under what constraints there?
Dude, I'm not kind of getting how you're trying to like apply constraints to it. There doesn't have to be any. The constraints would be that within this fight, they're showing relative performances in terms of speed. That's all that is.
Say that again, my bad.
Huh?
My bad, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I said that like I don't know why you're trying to apply some kind of like specific constraint to it. The constraint would just be that it's talking about within this fight, and that they show general relativity in terms of speed performances.
Yeah, but that's like the problem there, because the constraints. Because if you're saying you don't care about the constraints there, then the claim kind of just fails, and that's kind of a concession per se. Because the constraints is like when you're saying the constraints are like just the fight, it only gives you like you can say like the strongest thing that you can say is like well neither in like the strongest thing you could say is like in that encounter neither side overwhelmed the other, and it doesn't give you equal movement speed, equal reaction speed, equal burst like speed, or maybe equal peak speed like outside the exchange. It just
makes you
gives
think that.
no stats at all.
Why?
Because it gives you the outcome description. It still doesn't give you.
Yeah, but hold on. Sorry. If the outcome description is that in combat one can't overwhelm the other, is that not indication that inside of combat one of the other is relative?
No, because
How?
it still doesn't. It doesn't because it doesn't give you the. It doesn't become a speed claim because even fights can happen when one side is faster but cautious and one side is slower.
Right, but that's not what
conservative.
happens here. That's a
happens?
specific engagement.
What happens?
What happens here is that they both go at each other, and they're both relative. That's what I'm saying. Like obviously, there's specific like arrangements in which someone who's much slower, or not much slower, but just slower, can combat somebody who's faster. But that's not happening here. They're literally going head to head.
Sorry. So when you say they're literally going head to head, it doesn't really license the speed argument there, because like the head-to-head engagement without the blowout does not establish speed parity. So when you say they went head-to-head, it just like it's confusing because like okay, you're describing a competitive interaction, not a speed claim. So when you go from neither overwhelmed the other, the only thing that follows is neither achieved a decisive advantage in that exchange. It doesn't follow that their movement speed is equal and their reaction speed is equal or their burst speed is equal. Those are
Okay,
distinct.
so wait, but if they're both able to react to each other and move at similar speeds, what does that apply to, or what does that indicate to you?
I mean, that's also what's in question. But let's say your question.
I can just show you that.
It just implies situational reaction parity.
Okay, so
in that exchange.
okay, so like it seems like you're trying to make it more complex than it is. So is it not the case that Hiruzen and Orochimaru can react to each other and have a relative battle?
With those constraints, sure.
With constraints being
I Loki already mentioned those, bro.
like what I'm trying to apply here is that the constraints being it would only be the fight itself. There's no constraints that would say that it would significantly change one or the other's speed to say that one can keep up with the other even if they're slower or faster.
Okay.
Okay, so
So
they're in the fight.
when you
I'm
said
sorry.
like we went around when you said the constraints is the fight itself, because the fight itself, like the fight itself is a constraint and it is sufficient by itself to mask speed differences, but you do not like, okay, like, okay, when you say why only the fight itself, right? The fight always imposes internal constraints and affects how the speed appears, though, because the engagement distance limits how burst speed or attack
Okay,
commitments.
can I clarify then?
Yeah, are you committed? Oh, my bad. You're
Yeah,
good.
there are no particular restraints within said fight that would make it so one or the other can keep up. In the case that they were slower.
Why? That's the claim. Oh, I thought you were gonna
Yeah,
extrapolate.
no, that's
Oh,
it.
okay. Yeah, no, you're fine. That's fine. But I mean, that's just false when we like read the chapter there, because or not even read the chapter, because we can say like, I mean, you're asserting a conditional. You're saying if one fighter were slower, that slowness would necessarily show in the fight.
Showing in the sense that they would lose, like lose interactions. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that conditional is not good, because even under unconstrained, there's like straight fight, like the speed gap, it just often it does like it often okay, speed gaps do not like show in head-to-head combats. And we can like talk about like how even with no external restraints or whatever, like some of these like it's intrinsic, the intrinsic features of combat. There's things about engagement distances, committed costs. Faster fighters must commit more to capitalize on speed, and commitments open counterplay, so speed is throttled. The commitments there, you have to understand both of the commitments to both characters, especially
Hmm.
Hiruzen, and
That
like the mutual threat thing.
yeah, but I don't think any of this applies to either of these characters. It kind of seems as though you're trying to like misconstrue and over exaggerate the complexity of this when it's not really as complex as you're making it seem. So it's a battle manga. It's a manga specifically for scaling and people to like have arguments on whether or not somebody is stronger than the other or somebody's weaker than the other. It seems like if we're getting information from this author saying that these two characters are not only relative but they're showing that they're relative, you trying to impose this idea that like yeah there's just different like there's different commitments and people faster people have higher commitment level. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't apply like here specifically
Okay, I
in
mean,
this.
you're appealing to some form of battle manga intent. It doesn't really rescue, because battle manga does not equal automatic stat readouts. It doesn't. It's not that easy. It's not like primitive
Stat
fighting
what?
that way. Automatic stat readouts, like we can read out the stats immediately just by
That's not
looking
what
at
I
it.
said at all. So
That's basically what you're implying. So I'd
no, I
agree
never
that
said that.
I'd agree that in Naruto, sorry, I'd sorry, I'd agree that in Naruto is a battle manga. I'd agree to that, but that means that the author often communicates outcomes and stakes visually, but it does
Hmm.
not mean every even exchange encodes every stat, though. So when the author wants speed to be the
Okay,
point, he
could I
shows
ask
the
a question?
bullets. Sure.
What would it take for you to say that somebody's relative to somebody on screen? Like what would they have to do,
What would it take for me to? Well, okay.
including
Let's
all the
say,
constraints?
yeah, including all these. I would just say that two characters are relative on screen only when the scene itself selects the stat in question as the reason neither side gains an advantage. Otherwise, I just will not grant the stat parity.
Wait, okay, so real quick, what IQ would be necessary for Hiruzen or Orochimaru to keep up with one another? Like to effectively say they're predicting one another
What the
with
fuck?
the, while being slower.
IQ? I mean,
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, but like what makes you think that they can even do that Why do you think they're on that level?
There's no specific IQ threshold that's required to keeping up in their fight. It doesn't imply equal intelligence, nor does it
Yeah, of
imply
course. I never
what
said that,
was
but
their
I'm saying
body.
that. Well, so for this argument, you have to believe that that one or the other has the higher IQ to be able to predict the other.
No, that's like that doesn't IQ doesn't like that doesn't
Okay,
matter.
so what stat is the differential that makes it so speed isn't relative?
Okay, so what? My
What
bad.
stat is the differential that makes it so speed isn't relative? What's the outlier stat that's making speed not relevant?
So I mean the problem. I mean first thing, you don't want to talk about the IQ anymore, or did you like? Was
No,
that
we
actually?
can, but it's based on your argument because you're saying that it only matters if speed is the applicable stat that's being pointed out as to why the
Oh, the
outcome didn't.
differential. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
why?
Well, kind of straying away a bit from the IQ. The differential is just the initiative plus commitments. So it's not a raw movement. So the exact differential is what breaks the speed relative. So speed is not relative when we talk about initiative is throttled, commitments is pushed, decisive or decision speed replaces like the movement speed, where you're deciding prediction, pacing, or spacing and timing, and it lets a slower mover stay competitive without like matching raw
Can you
speed.
show me that happening?
What?
Can you show me that happening in the fight?
I'm just saying that I don't have to necessarily show you that happening in the fight. That's like, but I can
You're saying
describe
that
it.
that's what happened.
I'm saying that that just destroys your entire claim.
If
You
it
can't.
happened, then yeah, it might. I need to see it.
Well, you can't point to a moment. You can't point into the moment where in that fight where speed is selected as a deciding
You can't
variable.
point into a moment in the fight where what did you say? Where the commitments are the selected
No,
ones.
that's not. I didn't say the word commitments. I said you can't point
Wait,
to
did
a
you not? Wait,
moment.
what was the word you
I did
said?
not just say commitments in that
What was the
sentence.
word you said?
I'm going to say it. So you can't point to a moment in that fight where speed is selected as the deciding variable. What does happen on screen, or I mean on the manga per se, not we're not using anime. Fuck my anime.
Yeah.
On the manga, and I got restricted, bro. We didn't even curse. We barely even said anything, bro.
Mhm.
I got restricted, but it's fine.
Oh,
I mean, what
damn.
does happen on like the manga is it shows initiative, restraint, and counter threat, which is exactly why speed grading
Initiative,
is not
restraint, and
established.
counter threat that makes someone's speed different.
Initiative, what?
Wait, yeah. Well, just all the three things you said, like ones that would make the speed different.
Yeah, you're asking if that would make the speed different.
Yeah. Could you show me like the initiative, the restraint, and the counter?
Yeah, yeah, initiative, commitments, and win conditions.
So
Yeah, those.
commitments. Didn't you
No,
didn't
I didn't say that
when
the
I
first time in the specific sentence that you said
okay
I said it. I didn't say it, but I
okay.
have said commitments before. But so those three things are the differentials. If you understand how they operate inside the fight, speed does not equal. So I don't necessarily have to like so it's because like it's not a burden that I'm like really applied to, but I'll explain. So I'll explain right. So I mean, I'll just put it all together. I'll just concise it. So I mean, speed doesn't look different because neither fighter presses initiative, commitments is punished, right? So and speed is like not the win condition. So that combination itself, in of itself, like by enough is by itself, like no extra assumptions, it's no overall compilation. It just wouldn't work. If you want to see that he's not committed, his commitments are in a different area, and that like I guess maybe he's getting weaker or maybe he's having restraint. Obviously, second thoughts. That's fine. Is that what you want to see?
No, not that. What I'm trying to get at is like with with what you outlined, it doesn't sound like any of that would change the idea that whenever they're in a combative sequence, the reason that one doesn't get the upper hand on the other is because they can both keep up with each other. It doesn't have anything to do with the external factors that you're referring to, which also still seem very vague. Like it doesn't seem like it seems like this is the kind of argument that you can just take and you can apply it to anything to argue that maybe nothing is a speed feat. It
It
doesn't
seems
sound like it's
vague.
actually substantial or substantial.
Well, you definitely can't. I mean, you have to understand like a lot of manga scaling is like not a lot of manga scaling or even anime scaling is kind of ass. So
Okay,
I understand
so
what you mean by that, but no, okay, it's intuitive to believe that. But when you say like they can both keep up, that is an observation about the exchange, not an explanation of why the exchange is even, right? So you're assuming the
well,
case
keeping up
that
requires
causes
speed.
But you're assuming the cause is a speed parity, but the cause is selected by the scene. Without the scene selecting speed, keeping up does not equal. It does not
Wait,
necessarily equal
so if I
speed.
show you a scene of them being relative, can you show me the selective? What the scene is
If you
showing?
show me a scene of them, that's what's in question. Even if you show a scene of them, quote unquote, being or
Yeah.
like being on par, it's still a problem.
Yeah, but I'm asking, so if I show you a scene of them being on par, can you show me the selective that the scene is outlining that's not speed?
Where particularly their fight and encounter, which is they're like only really engaged where obviously its strengths aren't on the table. But yeah, I mean, I can show you
Okay, great.
whether
I'll just send you the scans and then you can just
the thing
reply to
is
them.
the
I can
thing
see
I
if
would
it.
do is though is that I can show you whether a scene selects speed or any stat as like the deciding variable. But I can only do that like if the scene itself encodes the selection. Like if it doesn't do that, then it doesn't really help your claim.
Wait, so I'm sorry. So you can only use a speed feat if the scene, in your opinion, selects speed as the feat in which, or the reason in which the combative sequence didn't go in the other person's favor.
Sorry, say the last part. I'm sorry.
Um, so you can only use a speed feat if the scene, in your opinion, selects speed as the reason that the combative sequence didn't go in one or the other's favor.
Uh, mm,
Does that
when you
not
word it
seem like
like
a
that,
ridiculously high bar?
yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, that's like kind of no, that's not a high bar. Uh,
That's an unbelievably high bar because not only do people have different opinions on whether or not speed is going to be indicated here, because obviously you can argue that one person can argue speed is indicated because the two people are moving. Like, why does it like why is your indication of speed that, like higher than mine or require more evidence? I mean, it's more substantial.
because it's categorical. Like when we're talking about category keys, category keys, when we're talking about categories, and like, I mean, when you're okay, let's use your example. When you say they're just moving, that's not enough to indicate speed because yes, movement is happening, and that movement is happening, right? But no, we cannot say that means like it does not mean speed is being used as an explanatory factor. So the key distinction is that movement. Oh yeah, my appeal got approved. The key distinction is that movement existing does not equal speed deciding, and action occurring does not equal stat being used, stat being tested, my bad. And like if movement alone, like were the things that we talk about, then it would be the case that every punch is a speed feat, or every sword
Hmm.
swing proves a speed parity, and like every even that falls us into absurdity. You'd be
What's
like,
absurd about that?
because wait, so you think I'm just saying if it were to be the case that movement is the only thing that decides speed deciding or action occurring, like there's an action, therefore we can say uh, we can say stats are being tested. It would be the case that if that is the case, then it would be the case that every punch is would just be a speed feat, or every even fight that we can talk about, fights they prove equal speed, and every sword swing proves speed
Mm,
parities.
no, not every fight will prove equal speed because obviously, well, here's the main argument would be like obviously movement indicates a speed feat, but there can be external factors if there's evidence of those factors taking place, which is why I try to get you to kind of give the categorical in which changes the speed, right? Because that would be what's needed to indicate that something is different than speed. Otherwise, the baseline assumption would be because there's movement, that speed is the feat being indicated as to which one or the other didn't get the upper hand on the other. But that doesn't mean every feat would just be a speed feat.
So I mean, the problem is that your baseline assumption is just not it's not something that I would agree with, because and the reason why movement speed doesn't go into speed feet, or movement not movement speed movement doesn't go into speed feet, it's not a valid baseline, because your proposition or you're proposing like if there is movement in a fight and no one gains advantage, then speed is the relevant stat unless other factors are shown. That rule is just false, and the reason why it's false is because movement is necessary for combat, but speed is the only one possible variable governing outcomes. So treating speed as like the default commits
Wait, that's
is
not
the
even the
default
case though.
cause fallacy. Yeah, you're committing yourself to a default to cause fallacy, and by that logic, every fight is
No,
a speed
because
feat.
speed isn't the only thing that's necessary for a fight. Obviously, IQ and other things are also necessary for a fight, but that's why I'm trying to tell you that indications are what matters,
That's
right?
not what I said.
So
I said that speed is the only one cause variable governing outcomes.
that's not true.
Why?
Because yeah, IQ also matters.
You think IQ is the only one of
I don't think
governing
no,
outcomes?
of course not. I don't think you simplify fights like that. There is no
Yeah,
one
you're
governing cause.
okay. I can because you're conflating necessary conditions with explanatory conditions. So yeah, I can agree. IQ and speed are both necessary for a fight to occur, but no, that does not mean either one is indicated as the reason the fight unfolds the way it does. So
Of
indications
course.
matter. So the reason why IQ also sorry, I got a like weird like something. Bro, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I just got this weird sharp ass pain in my stomach. I'm gonna die soon. Look, look. Okay, sorry, but like the reason why IQ also like matters.
No, I agree that IQ matters as well.
No, no, no. Like when you say IQ also matters, I'm just like saying it doesn't fix the baseline because you're saying speed is necessary for a fight, but IQ is also necessary. So indications are what matter. That part is correct. I'd agree with that. But the reason why I don't agree entirely is because where you go wrong is the next step that you're trying to make. In So like you're relying on some form of enthymeme, and an enthymeme is like a hidden primacy. It's like since movement is visible, speed is indicated factor is the indicated factor by default. That does not follow. So visibility does not equal causal selection.
Okay, so how would you so sorry, so if there's an interaction where neither of which in that I mean IQ or speed or anything else that you can think of is indicated, what would you indicate this speed feat to or this feat to?
What I indicated speed feed to?
What would you indicate this feat, just the feat to?
Well, I would necessarily say I would just say like I wouldn't indicate the speed to anything really. It's like if under those constraints, if there's no stat is indicated, then no stat conclusion is licensed. We
That
can't
sounds
make that.
ridiculous though. So let's say that there's an instance where Hiruzen is reacting to or like going relative with Orochimaru, and obviously movement isn't indicative of speed feat in your interpretation, but there's also no other stat that's indicated. You would just assume that. Sorry.
Nah, I just burped, bro. I'm not gonna lie. My
Okay,
bad,
I
bro.
was saying you would just assume that speed isn't the factor. Like you just assume that this isn't a speed feat just because it's not indicated, but also nothing else is indicated.
Well, when you say speed or movement isn't indicative of speed, that's not what I'm saying because you don't necessarily assume. Why did I get restricted again? We're not doing anything. Hold on, let me kill this John. All right, but okay, you don't necessarily assume anything because if stat is not is like if there's no stat to be indicated there, then no stat explains the exchange. So
Right.
when nothing is indicated, nothing is concluded. So if the
Okay.
scene shows mutual reactions, back and forth exchanges, and no blitz, no failed reactions, and no
Mhm.
narration or framing privilege, then it would be the case that the scene is telling you only one thing: neither fighter gains advantage in that
Yeah.
interaction.
Well, okay, intuition. Let's use intuition, right? So if there's nothing indicated, right, but we see that somebody is moving on a similar level as the other to say that their combat speed is relative, or like in this specific scenario, and there's nothing indicated to say, well, that seems sufficient enough for me to say they're relative in speed because that would be the indicator, right? So if something else was necessary to say that, hey, they only reacted because of their IQ, or they only reacted because they started first, or some other factor, it would seem that it would be outlined. But the fact that it's not outlined seems to be indicative of the fact that this is just supposed to be a speed feat. Does that not make sense?
Okay, here's a rule that I'll apply, and I think that you're missing this rule that I'm applying. So when multiple necessary factors, am I loud? Am I like too far away? When
No, you're
multiple
fine.
when multiple necessary factors are present and none is selected by the scene per se, none of them may be inferred as explanatory. That's the thing I'm going in. And what you just said, I don't agree to that intuition because it doesn't. It's like it doesn't hold like okay, so the absence of like of an explicit like alternative, it doesn't really like default explain like the explanation is not the default. We go to speed because what like why nothing like when you say nothing else is outlined, it doesn't really make the speed feat. It doesn't make it a speed feat because your reasoning is literally just we are movement. We see movement. I said we are movement. We see movement at a similar level, and then nothing else is like explicitly called out, and therefore, we can say speed must be the intended explanation. That inference is invalid because most fights do not spell out every contributing factor there. Like,
Wait,
and like,
where are you getting that from? Like,
what do you
it is
mean?
typical that the author would point out this specific indicators or indicators, sorry, that a fight is happening in the way that it's happening.
A fight is happening in the way that, like, you're saying, like, he would indicate speed.
Yeah, well, like no, rather like if it's not speed, he would usually
No,
indicate something else. Like someone's able to keep up to their IQ, through
no,
their
because
abilities.
what's typical is that the author points out indicators only when a specific stat is meant to explain the outcome. When the author does not do that, the scene is just intentionally generic. Generic depiction does not equal speed feat.
Okay, can I ask a question? Even if
Sure.
it's not inherently intended for it to be a necessary speed feat in the way that you're interpreting it, would it not be the case that on screen it is still happening to be a speed feat? Like just in reality, even if it's not like indicated specifically or explicitly.
I mean, you got to repeat yourself. Like the last little, I think I'd agree with the first part, but like repeat yourself.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the case that nothing is sorry, I have really bad memory, but in the case that it's not even like intended to be a speed feat, right? In the case or in the with the reason given being that the author doesn't explicitly show movement or whatever you haven't told me, but whatever you would take to be an indicator of speed being the reason that that was happening the way it's happening, would it not be the case that still in reality on screen it is a speed feat regardless of intention?
Oh, it is a speed feat. Well, the problem is, sorry, I don't know what the fuck just happened. But okay, I'd say no because it's not a speed feat in reality. Because the term speed feat, like, okay, the mistake you're making is that you're treating like if characters are moving and reacting on screen, then speed is being demonstrated even if the author didn't intend it. That's false because demonstration is not explanation. Those two things are distinct. What actually happens on screen by your descriptors there is that on screen these things are true at once. Speed exists, IQ exists, timing exists, positioning exists, anticipation exists, but all of those are necessary background capacities for combat. So when none of them is isolated as the reason the exchange goes the way it does, like the reason the exchange would go the way it does, the scene is only showing a baseline combat competence and not a speed or like not a
Yeah.
stat
So
feat.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
You had a
sorry.
mic
You have a
open.
mic. I'm done.
Um. Okay. So with all of that, it sounds like yeah, you would think that if there's no indicator, it would just be the case that there's general combat relativity.
General combat relativity under the constraints, I'd say that. Sorry, I'd say that it's exactly that. Yeah, I mean that's fine
Okay.
because
So
like
what's
if
the
there's
problem
no
with?
indicator,
Okay. So
sorry.
I mean, I'm fine with saying that Hiruzen and Orochimaru are relative in general combat.
No, I don't. I don't necessarily think under the same constraints. No,
Okay. What's the constraints in the fight that would make it so they're not relative in general combat?
I'd say that under those constraints, the constraints we could talk about. I mentioned them. I mentioned them earlier. So, the constraints in the fight. Okay, you're proposing if there are constraints in the fight, then relativity in that fight it doesn't affect the general combat relativity.
I haven't said any of that. I'm just asking you what is the constraint.
The constraints are the mental issues, the state dependent situations that I was talking about way earlier. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah,
We
you
can
think
go
Hiruzen
over
is
it.
like mentally nerfed?
I'd say that there's different commitments, different mental or timing issues, and uh, especially his method of lethality
Okay.
isn't
Okay.
necessarily the one that we'd be, speaking about.
Okay. So what in this changes his stats significantly?
Okay, well, significantly, what happens? Well, significantly, but nothing shown in the exchange changes stats significantly absent an explicit limiter being selected as causal though. So I mean, what would have to be like present to change stats significantly would be explicit limiters, asymmetric like conditions, deferred capabilities, stat specific emphasis, and like, but these things are truthed. And if you want scans for that, because I'm fairly certain you like if you want scans for that, then it's fine. Like, there's a lot of limiters. There's a lot of different statements of him
Okay,
being
by
literally
limiters, do you mean by limiters you just mean things that change his battle prowess, but not significantly?
well, the term significantly I wouldn't really be using. Hold on, give me a second. My bad.
Okay. I can simplify it more if you need.
No, I was responding to some like dumbass Discord nigga.
That's cool.
It's that nigga Scribble. This nigga's an idiot sometimes. All right. What was I saying? Okay. I mean, you want proof as to why like Part One Hiruzen was like explicitly portrayed as physically deteriorating or like mentally constrained? Is that what you want?
Well, he's definitely physically deteriorating. He's an old man. Mentally restrained, I like to see. But let me clarify a little bit more. When I'm saying that, or when you're saying that he's mentally constrained, are you saying that, like, let's say we have a Hiruzen, for example, that wasn't fighting someone like Orochimaru, and then we have the Hiruzen that was fighting Orochimaru. Would you say that those two combatants are relative in prowess?
What was the first Hiruzen again?
He's just not fighting Orochimaru, so he wouldn't have the same mental state.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I get it. I get it. No, I wouldn't say they're relative in combat prowess by default. So what I would say is like here's an in general unconstrained state doesn't equal here's an Orochimaru fight state because therefore a character who keeps up with constrained Hiruzen is just not automatically like relative to unconstrained him. There's no licensing there.
Okay, so it would have to be somewhat significant to say that they're not even relative.
My bad. I keep on getting restricted on the live. We're not cursing. We're not yelling.
Yeah,
We're
this is
not
very weird.
insulting. All right. Well, you said like it'd be significant to say that they're not relative. Well, yeah. I mean
That's
the
significant.
constraint. Yeah. Yeah. Then never mind. I take back that I'm not saying significant because the constraint has to be causally significant to block
Okay.
relativity. So
So
it's
now
not
I need to
mechanical
see
in the
evidence.
background. So what?
Yeah, now I need to see evidence that's significant.
So the points in matter as to what like matters in a relative like scenario is that part one here is in like I already said he's explicitly portrayed as like physically deteriorating and it's not even just age or like the mental constraints there. First, I mean we could talk about the age and decline. Sorry, age and decline.
By part one Hiruzen, do you not mean the Hiruzen that fought Orochimaru?
Yeah.
Okay, so what does the physical deterioration have to do with anything?
What is a what?
What does physical deterioration have to do with anything? Like, why does that even matter?
It matters because the narration. So like in part one dialogue, the databook commentary and in databook commentary, they're talking about things like. Sorry. Okay. So I mean, well, to answer that question initially, physical deterioration matters because the text explicitly treats it as a performance limiting, not like cosmetic. So here's an age directly reduces stamina, chakra output, and execution capacity,
Sorry,
especially when
well,
he's not like going full force.
when I was asking why it mattered, I more so meant like, how does that change it? Like, how does that help Hiruzen? Sorry, like if you're just saying like, yeah, he's nerfed to some degree, like yeah, he's pretty ass. I agree.
Well, okay. So ask your first question again. My bad.
Oh, well, you answered it. It's fine. You can continue. Like, yeah, I agree. He's physically, you know, terrible. His body is old,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
the mental restraints is what we need. They
So
have to be
there's a bit
significant.
of a there's some chakra depletion situations in the feet in the, like stated in feet. So during the battle with Orochimaru, Hiruzen explicitly states that his chakra is insufficient. He cannot complete full sealing on Orochimaru. His body is failing
Okay.
him. These things like all
Yeah.
go into this thing. And then the
None
main
of
thing
this. Okay. I need to clarify it. All of this sounds like this guy just sucks. What I'm asking for right now is like within the fight to say that Hiruzen's stats in terms of like physical speed and things like that wouldn't be relative to Orochimaru in his unrestrained state mentally, because that's what's restraining him.
okay.
Like, yeah, his
So
physical body sucks, but That is not anything that would just
Yeah,
lose to
the mental and
Itachi.
emotional constraints are just explicitly causal because the first thing is the emotional hesitation to is like just foregrounded as a limiter. So here's in reluctance. His reluctance to like kill Orochimaru is not like the subtle thing. It's like stated outright. He hesitates, he delays, he reflects, he acknowledges personal failure, and the story explicitly links the hesitation to like missed lethal opportunities, prolonged engagement, and resorting to last resort ceiling, and that all
Wait. Do you think that holding back lethality equals holding
there.
back your speed?
No, that doesn't matter. That's not
Okay,
what I'm
so
talking
if
about. Let
his
me
speed
let
is
me
still
repeat.
this,
No, I'm
sorry,
not saying his
sorry.
speed is like when I say that doesn't matter, it doesn't license his speed is still the same. That's a leap in logic. What I'm
Okay,
saying
well,
is
yeah, but that's what you would have to indicate that speed is different.
that's okay. So what I'm saying is when he hesitates, delays, reflects, and acknowledges personal failures, the story is explicitly linking this hesitation to missed lethal opportunities, not as if he's too slow to commit these things, and prolonged engagement, not as if he's
Well,
too
I
slow
don't
to
think there's
commit
any
these things.
example in which you can show that Hiruzen
Say it
could have
again.
killed Orochimaru
Hmm?
that he just didn't. Sorry, I won't say. I don't think there's any showing where you can show where Hiruzen could have unalived Orochimaru and which he just didn't because of his mental state. I
See
don't think there's
that?
ever evidence.
See, that's just gonna be like I don't necessarily need to admit like so. The only thing that you're right about is that the claim is not like is not that Hiruzen could have killed Orochimaru and chose not to. That's not what needs to be shown. So what I'm relying on, like I'm not relying on that particularly. The actual claim to make it narrow and so you can understand is that Hiruzen's mental restraint changes how his stats are expressed in the fight, even if it
Right,
doesn't magically give him a win to like
I
win.
agree.
Like it just means like let me type it in chat. This is
No,
literally
I
just
agree. I agree.
hold on. I just want to type this so I can for my brain. It just means like this. Like there's a little line between the relativity between this trash nigga Orochimaru, uh, Itachi. There's a like how can we? There's no valid way we can say like this guy Itachi actually scaled over unconstrained Hiruzen.
Okay, unconstrained Hiruzen, all that would mean is that Hiruzen, well, from what you described to me, is that Hiruzen would be trying to kill Orochimaru. Is that correct? I'll just answer and then I'll continue. Just a real
Well,
quick yes or no.
I mean, I answered that like oh, no, like he's not trying to kill Orochimaru in like the normal unconstrained sense. That's the point. That's the point I'm making. He was trying to stop Orochimaru under emotional restraint, not to press at all outside of like lethal combat path from the start. So you can
Wait,
keep
what do you mean
going.
not to? What do you mean not to press at all?
Excuse me. Sorry. What I mean is, yo, by the way, I'm not fat, bro. I'm like 155.
For
But,
sure, bro.
but what I mean by like not to press at all or not to press is like I mean not to fully commit his combat options to force decisive outcomes even while actively fighting.
Where are you getting that idea?
Well, okay, what not pressing means in combat is that pressing is as escalating initiative and commitments to end the fight. I mean, when you say where I'm getting that idea, I mean, I can answer that right directly. What I mean is that, like, from the manga itself, like, the idea that Hiruzen is not pressing for an immediate lethal resolution is explicitly shown and stated. And this is not just interpretive leap that I'm making or, like, the vibes of the read there. It is just grounded in dialogue, pacing, and the structure of the fight.
Okay, even if you assume that he's not taking the initiative to say that he's, which I don't even think is true. I think there probably are instances where he's doing that, but even if there aren't cases where he's taking the initiative leap to push for decisive blows, that doesn't change anything about his speed actually being applied in combat. It just means he's not applying it lethally. Doesn't mean he's not trying to beat Orochimaru to say that Orochimaru reacting to him wouldn't be a speed feat. Like unrestrained, all it means in this scenario would be, from what you described, still would be lethal, like lethality and pressure. I guess pressure can be considered as well, but uh, but since Orochimaru is still able to keep up and
Yo,
press
fuck you and your
Hiruzen,
roses. I don't want your lame ass roses.
and not only
You're so
press
annoying,
Hiruzen,
bro.
not only press
Fuck you,
Hiruzen, but
Zukan.
react to Hiruzen, even when he's not going for lethal blows, which
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't restrain him.
Okay, it doesn't change. Okay, it does change how speed is applied. Initiative and commitments directly affect express combat speed, not just lethality. So you're just treating speed as like a fixed
No, no,
output
no. I
that appears.
responded to that.
Yeah, you're saying, but no, you didn't. Like you're saying, even if Hiruzen isn't pressing lethality or lethally, that doesn't change his speed in like combat. He can still rush, react, and keep up as a hold on
Hmm.
at speed. That just assumes that it assumes speed is independent of commitments, which it isn't. So combat speed is not just
Why does
how
that assume
fast.
that?
Because okay, so speed requires commitments to lines, right? So
Yeah,
to express top combat speed, let's say a fighter has to close distance aggressively, chain movements without pause, accept counter risk, and overtake
yeah.
initiative repeatedly. So if a fighter avoids any of those risks, their effective speed drops
Wait,
even if
Hiruzen doesn't
their
do
raw.
that.
Hmm?
You haven't shown that Hiruzen does that.
When you I've seen
You've only shown that Hiruzen avoids lethal connection.
I said a lot of things other than lethal connection.
That no, that's explicitly what we specified.
No, I said a lot of more things than okay. So the manga does show here's an avoiding lethal escalation. It's not
Where
inferred
do we
from
see that at?
vibes. It's just encoded. Do you want
Where?
a panel?
Yeah, I need some type of evidence.
So I mean, the descriptors there. The descriptors. I can get you a panel, but the descriptors there. Like we can go back because like I don't know why you said I only said lethal there. Okay, so okay, the descriptors there, and the reason why like he's just kind of shit, right? In terms of like his age, whatever. So the problem or like the particular is like the mental emotional constraints explicitly. I can mention them again. When I said that he hesitates, he reflects, he delays, and he acknowledges personal failure. And I'm bringing the link that the story itself explicitly links that hesitation to missed lethal opportunities, prolonged engagement, and resorting to last resort sealing. That so the manga frames this as emotional conflict as part of why the fight unfolds the way it does. And the next thing is just the intent constraint alters combat decision. So Hiruzen is not fighting to optimize the victory there. He's fighting under guilt, attachment, and regret. And that's the same thing Jiraiya goes through a lot when he's dealing with Orochimaru. So those things are mental constraints that alter move selection. So when a character with lethal options chooses non-lethal or delayed routes, because of like an emotional conflict that may be the case, right? That is the real combat nerf. It's not the story it's treating as such, right? So
Well, yeah, here's the problem. Like, for one, it only matters if you're showing that this happens in the case that Hiruzen goes into some attack or some form of like fighting, and then he particularly avoids combat like escalation in the sense that he stops himself from escalating the combat, and that changes his stats in some way.
it's just stamina debating, bro. But okay, so listen, I'm gonna say it again. I look at this last time. So you're setting the
All right,
bar
if you
in
feel like you
character.
explain, we can just move on. I'm fine with that.
Okay, but okay, let me just get to this. Like you're asking for the kind of proof that you're saying, show me a moment. You're essentially saying like, show you a moment where he initiates an escalation, then consciously stops himself, and that changes his stats. That is not the only way restraint manifests in
I
combat.
never said it had to be that particular, but
Well, the fact that it isn't, that's like just helps me a lot because restraint is present if any. The restraint is present if like first we can talk about high risk options are never selected, and the second we can talk
how do
about
you know that he applies high
escalation
risk options in battle in the first place?
because it can be the case that the characters. Wait, say what?
How do you know that Hiruzen would apply high risk options in the first place?
Is that like that's like a okay. How do I know that he would apply high risk battles in the first place? I mean, because the manga and the databook established that Hiruzen's kit includes high risk decisive options. Like,
Inclusive doesn't mean that he would choose those. That doesn't mean anything.
are
It
we
also
doing in
includes
character or
non
are
high
we
risk
doing?
options.
I'm fairly certain this is death battle.
What that's fine. Wait, sorry. Say it again.
This is death battle.
Yeah, to say that Hiruzen is trying to kill Itachi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're always choosing your highest risk option. You can have low risk lethal options.
So listen, the reason why, like, regardless, it's like whatever he deems works on an Uchiha works on Uchiha. So
Right,
here's
right.
some kit includes high risk decisive options in the fight, like in the fight structure, just shows that he withholds it or delays it in the Orochimaru context. So in that fight, so when you say would apply, That's just the wrong standard because has and withholds is the right one. That's what I'm talking about. You're asking
Yeah, but
how do
the
we,
fact is that if he doesn't apply them in combat in the first place, it wouldn't change his overall prowess
but
anyway.
you're asking how do you know
Yeah,
like here's and would just even like apply high risk options in the first place. But the correct
yeah.
inquiry has to be does here's and possess decisive high risk
No,
options
I don't care
and
about that. Of
does
course he does. It only matters if he's applying them, though. That's what matters in combat. Because
it only
if we're
matters if
fist
he's
fighting and
applying
I
them.
have a gun, sorry, maybe I shouldn't say that. If we're fist fighting
Okay,
and I can, unalive you with some weapon, and I
I don't
choose
think that's
not
right
to,
though. I don't think that's right because
what?
it's wrong in the combat analysis because you're missing a rule. So you're two different type of questions. The first question is who wins this fight as shown. Application answers that, right? So the second question would be does this fight represent each fighter's full combat capability? And the answer to that is
Wait, but
selection
combat
and the
capability is
withholding answer.
restricted by combat IQ and typical
Hmm?
battle prowess.
Hmm?
Well, yeah, combat. Sorry, like what you said is limited by your combat. Like what you typically use in combat. It's not like because everyone doesn't use their whole bag. You know.
But yeah, like withholding matters even if nothing is applied though. So like a fight only represents full stats if decisive options are available and
That's not true. I
the
completely
fighter
disagree.
okay.
Sorry. Well, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it kind of just I completely disagree with that.
Well, the fight only represents full stats if decisive options are available and the fighter is willing to baseline them. So if a fighter like if it is the case that a fighter has irreversible escalation paths, delays them, and only uses them at exhaustion
Whoa.
or as a last resort, then the
Sorry, that
fight
there
is
was
not
another premise
neutral
in there.
sample.
There was another premise in there. You said irreversible escalation options. I have no idea if Hiruzen has those. You just put that in there.
And those are just examples to like deny that the applied thing. So
Yeah, that
like
only
I
matters
mean,
if Hiruzen has them.
hold on, I got restricted again. Okay,
I
so
got my bad.
I didn't slip in the irreversible escalation thing. It's just explicitly in Hiruzen's canon kit. So used
Where
on
do we
panel.
have that at? Where do we get that from?
So what irreversible escalation option actually is, and I'm referring to only one thing. I'm referring to Hiruzen using the Reaper Death Seal.
Hmm.
So yeah, in part one, it's not disputable. It's not disputable in part one that it is known. It is a known technique. Hiruzen already possesses it and explicitly fatal to the
If
user.
if that's it, then that's fine. I mean, I agree, but he also probably wasn't planning to die that day, so that's
What do
probably
you
why
mean
he
by
didn't use it.
like? I mean, when you say that, what do you mean?
Like that's probably why he didn't use it. It doesn't have to be that it's because he was mentally restrained, and that's why he didn't go for that irreversible thing. He also just probably didn't plan to die that day.
Oh, he probably didn't plan to die that day. No, I disagree because like per se like that. I mean, but okay. I mean that helps my position because it doesn't really hurt it because like why he didn't plan to die is irrelevant. I don't even have to like disagree or agree. It's irrelevant
Okay.
because like you're saying he didn't use reproductive seal because like he didn't plan to die, right? That's fine. I don't need like the mental restraint as an exclusive cause because like
Okay.
the decisive point is any reason for withholding like a terminal option still produces a constraint performance sample.
All right, we can move on. Do you want to move on to abilities? Because I don't think Hiruzen has any answers to any of or Itachi's abilities.
Any of Itachi's abilities?
Yeah,
What abilities?
or Tsukiyomi and Madarasu.
This is part one knowledge. I don't think he has a Madarasu in part one, does he?
He does. He does. He
Okay,
uses it.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu are your win conditions. I think it's like his only ones. Um. Okay. So I mean, the problem is, I don't think those will really work. Tsukiyomi is not necessarily an auto win against Hiruzen per se. It's more of an ocular condition dependent genjutsu, or like Tsukiyomi. Like so. Okay. I mean, the ability in question, right? So I mean, Tsukiyomi is not a decisive here because like canon anti Sharingan, I have like a canon anti Sharingan protocol exist because my guy
Yeah. You think
experienced.
so? You think he can use what Guy does?
You want the argument for that?
No, I think I know it. You think he knows all techniques in the leaf?
Okay, I mean, essentially, the argument, because it's just like it's hold on, give me a second. Give me a second. All right, let me get this scan.
You could probably just say it. Might not know
Oh,
a lot about it.
okay. So I mean, I can give you the argument. So I mean, essentially, we were like arguing informal, but this one, I can give like premises and like a conclusion. So I mean, the first premise would just be like Hiruzen possesses like total technique coverage within Konoha Jutsu, and that is just a textual stipulation. And the second premise would be anti-Sharingan combi techniques explicitly exist in Part 1 canon. The third premise would just be if Hiruzen knows, or if Hiruzen uses all techniques, then he necessarily has access to anti-Sharingan techniques. So that's just universal instantiation. So it just means if A uses all X, then Y is an element of X, and then A uses that, then A uses Y.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have two problems with it. I'll bring up the
Mhm.
first one because I think it's the most pressing. This anti-Sharingan technique only really functions against Tsukiyomi or Genjutsu, ocular Genjutsu, right? What happens when he starts looking at his feet and then he gets hit with an Amaterasu on his fucking forehead? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't really have
No,
a counter for it.
it's just funny how you said that shit.
That's how I see the fight going like 99% of the time.
It's just funny how you said that shit. Okay, no, I don't agree because the anti-Sharingan protocol, yeah, it's like it's not necessarily just post Genjutsu and like
What it
Amaterasu doesn't even
is.
affect that.
That's explicitly what it is. Wait, where's the indication that? Because you know what? You know how this was developed, right?
Yeah, against Kakashi.
Yeah, Kakashi only has one ability. He can only
Well, that's
use
well,
Genjutsu.
okay. Kakashi only has like one ability,
Yeah,
so it's developed from
the only thing
Kakashi.
that was that would hinder my guy from Kakashi would be his Genjutsu. That's the only ability of the Sharingan he can use,
I
like in
don't know,
combat.
not
You
necessarily,
know what
because
I mean. You know what I mean.
yeah, well, that I mean that's kind of irrelevant in this match. That's particularly just felt the analogy. So look, Uh, so anti Sharingan doesn't necessarily equal close your eyes and pray per se. Not saying that you're exactly saying
No,
it.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, the anti Sharingan method, when it's explained in canon or in part one, specifically, it's like the preemptive denial, not the recovery mechanic. So
Yeah.
what it does is it avoids the direct ocular engagement. That's fine, right? And then like it relies on the movement cues, peripheral visions, and shadows, sounding, pacing, spacing, and denies the eye contact trigger techniques. And the Amaterasu is still condition dependent. And the reason why like it denies it, even though, because Amaterasu requires visual targeting, line of sight, aim
Okay.
stability
Let me
for
let me let me
ignition.
clarify it further. Then is that okay?
Hmm.
Okay. Guy developed this technique, and we're presuming that Hiruzen has the technique as developed by Guy, right? That's the only way he would probably have it.
Develop like that, yeah. Maybe like I don't. I mean,
Like
only when you say.
probably.
I mean, no, I think
Yeah.
it's necessary. I don't say probably,
Well,
but yeah.
unless you think Hiruzen was out there just training for, some random nigga with a Sharingan when the whole clan got
Yeah,
decimated.
because like Hiruzen doesn't need to have Guy's personal technique to access anti-Sharingan combat methods because
Well,
what
what other,
Guy.
wait, sorry, that gets into what other anti-Sharingan techniques exist. That this is the only one that we know
No,
of.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying Guy because what Guy explains is a doctrine, not a property, not a propriety jutsu. And
What do
Hiruzen's
you
master
mean?
is explicitly systemic and
Wait,
not
what do you mean?
interactive.
Sorry.
Meanwhile, what?
Do you mean like a doctrine is to say that this existed prior to Guy's invention of it?
What I mean by I don't. Okay, I'm gonna try to understand what you're saying. Okay, so I mean, no. What I mean by is that well, there's no document. The document is not like no document is required in that aspect. So I mean, the unwritten like there's like I mean, for a written rule in universe like prior document, that's a category error. The existence of anti
All right, but chill,
Sharingan.
chill, chill. Like, here's what I'm trying to get you to like agree with. Like, would be that Hiruzen and Guy, from our knowledge in part one, probably just have the same anti Sharingan technique, which is the one that Guy developed and trained with.
Nah, I don't agree.
Okay, what other ones exist? That's what you got to get into. What other ones ever exist?
I'm not saying that any like so. It just collapses on contact because okay, there's no evidence that the anti Sharingan method is a guy exclusive invention and
It
treating.
stated he made it.
When did he say he made it?
He says it. He says he developed it to fight Kakashi.
Where's the what chapter is that? It's 143. I think.
Oh,
Never mind.
it's
I can
like
find. I can find it.
150s. It's like 150s.
Central. Let me see. Fuck. Just entered a weak ass chapter for no reason.
You know, I was off. It's like 142.
Nah, it can't be because Kakashi's not a corpse right now. Let me go further. Let me see. 40. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Here he pulls up, I think. Wait, no. Never mind now. Let me go back. Yeah, there we go. Here he is. Okay. Da-da-da-da. Don't look into his eyes, bro. Yeah, he never says he said I've mastered counter Sharingan. There,
Yeah.
I can show you.
I'm looking at it now. On God, there used to be a statement that says that. On my life, I remember the statement.
Yeah, I'm not
On
gonna lie to you.
God. Am
You
I
know, I know you know
tripping?
six. I know you know
Yeah.
six. Six and Aeroplane debated, and I swear to God, it might have said that.
Bro. I mean, I think the argument still works to some degree. I mean, okay, yeah, but no, well, part one knowledge, this definitely still works. So here's what I'll say. Even if Guy didn't develop it, the only techniques of the Sharingan that we know are ocular genjutsu. Like at this point in time, we don't even know. Well, I guess we know Amaterasu exists, but we don't know if other people can have the same abilities. That's to say that even if there are like other people with Mangekyo or whatever, which we also don't know, there's no evidence that they have a counter to Amaterasu.
Okay.
So like with and also with how it's described, right? You're just looking down to guess their abilities or guess what they're doing based on their feats
Well, I
or
don't. Oh, it's
shadows.
not. Well, the word guess. The
Or
word
like
guess shouldn't really be used.
estimate. That works.
No, I don't even think estimate is the word to be used either. So,
Okay.
okay. Well,
Substitute whatever you substitute whatever you see fit, but like that doesn't. None of that counters anything that has to do with the Matarasu.
yeah, but you're kind of smuggling in abilities that don't really apply. You said like there's no evidence they have counters to like Madara. No, you didn't say Madara. I'm freaking bugging. Like Amaterasu. Amaterasu. Okay, because the Sharingan abilities are actually like that. Like what Sharingan abilities actually matter in part one is like in part one, Sharingan's known their decisive function is like the ocular genjutsu, perception and prediction, and visual dominance and exchanges. That's like necessarily it, right? So Kiyomi is just an ocular jutsu. Amaterasu is visually targeted. So both rely on ocular access. So therefore, they would be in that same like set at least, or like all A or B or whatever, right? So when you say we only like know ocular genjutsu, that just actually helps Hiruzen because you're conceding something like at this point in time, Sharingan's known technique are ocular. So that means that the counter space only needs to address ocular interaction.
Yeah, well, ocular interaction in the sense that you don't meet the opponent's gaze to get genjutsu. That doesn't mean ocular interaction in the sense that he looks at you and you fucking burst into flames. Like, what's the counter to that? Like, literally, what is the counter to that? What do you do?
Let me read this shit. I've already mastered counter
A guy
Sharingan
looks
battle
at you and you
techniques.
burst into flames.
I've already mastered counter Sharingan battles techniques from all my belts against Kakashi. You don't have to tell me. Okay. So, I mean, that's kind of false inevitability because Amaterasu is not like a passive. He looks at you and you like ignite though. Because,
Not
I mean,
passively, yeah.
yeah, but you're assuming like if Itachi looks in Hiruzen's direction, Amaterasu like just auto spawns on his forehead. The premise is false because Amaterasu requires like precise visual targeting and a fixed kick ignition point there. So in like he has to be uninterrupted in his line of sight long enough to execute.
Mm-hmm.
So if it were to be like automatic and mere looking, then like Sasuke would never dodge it. Like all these other whatever, right? So
But that's part two knowledge.
that's part two knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah, my bad. I'm fairly certain something happened in part one. No,
No,
he was
the
getting
only
cooked.
time it's
He
ever
was
used
getting
in part
cooked.
one is on the toe belly. But just to
No, he was getting
clarify
cooked. He was
a
getting
little
shit
bit
on.
more,
That's fine.
to clarify a little bit more, yeah, he would have to you need like precise visual acuity, which I think the Sharingan has shown. Itachi is able to keep up with high levels of opponents, and I think I've demonstrated that Itachi was relative to or even above Hiruzen in the sense that Hiruzen can't just go around blitzing him to say that he can't just keep on eye contact. And especially if Hiruzen wants to win the fight, he obviously has to get in like in some way to get close to Itachi, in which Itachi could clearly, perceive him, and at the very least use Amaterasu.
I mean, no, you
Like,
didn't necessarily establish the Itachi over here, isn't it? Oh, I thought we like went through how they don't even link. They don't
but that's
even really
fine.
like, link. So
Do
I
you
mean, the
think that you can
problem.
demonstrate that he can blitz like before
I don't have to
Amaterasu?
demonstrate that he can blitz. That's not per se like my issue. So
Well,
like,
sorry. Do you think that
it's
he
still
can not get hit by Amaterasu?
still
What's the
what?
speed scaling for that?
Huh?
Do you think that he can not get hit by Amaterasu? Like, what's the speed scaling for that?
So I mean, what I would say is essentially. I mean, well, the first thing you said, like before I get to that, like I felt like there was a hidden assumption that breaks kind of your argument. Your reasoning relies on like the unstated, like the enthymeme, where like if two characters are relative, then ocular techniques that require fixation or become inevitable.
Sorry, say that again.
There's an enthymeme in your argument where you're saying if two characters are relative, then ocular techniques that require fixation are inevitable.
To say that one can't stop the other from looking at them, in that and only that, yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, so
Like if someone's
well,
relative to you, they're likely and they have acute visual or innate visual acuity with their ability, they're probably not going to lose track of you. That's what I mean by that.
okay. I mean, the problem is that even like the speed thing, the speed doesn't equal like gaze control because you're arguing if I rush you like fast enough, like let's say, you can't like stop yourself from looking at me. But like that's not how combat perception works in Naruto or like even reality because like shinobis like they don't need to look at someone in the eyes to track them. Movement can be tracked via like the body motion, chakra flow, peripheral vision, shadows, or sound and displacement. So a rush increases pressure, not convolution there. And like even like the blitz level speed doesn't really guarantee like eye contact there because like there's a distinction that we need to like go through. Like blitzing, that just means landing before a reaction, and eye contact requires.
Well, that they're different. They're different forms of blitzing. By blitzing, I meant like a speed blitz, like a general reaction blitz. Like you can't perceive this person.
Yeah, if that's before reaction, it's going to be before your physical reaction as well.
But well, yeah. By I'm also clarifying by reaction, it can be physical or mental. I'm saying that the blitz I was talking about is a actual mental reaction in which you can't process what just happened.
Yeah, that's what
Not
I said.
just
Like blitzing means like landing before reaction.
okay.
So
Okay, sorry. We agree. I was just clarifying. Reaction can mean physical or mental. I was clarifying mental.
okay, so okay, and then the next thing is eye contact requires the opponent to look into your eyes. So those two things are different conditions. Like you can be rushed, be struck, or be preserved like without ever like really making eye contact. So even like if
That's
if like
not really what I
speed
mean.
What do you mean
Wait, I
no?
was never saying that like to say that when Hiruzen rushes, he has to look in Itachi's eyes. I was saying that for the Amaterasu, like for him to rush, he has to be within Itachi's line of sight.
Yeah, but that doesn't give you like inevitability there. Like
Okay, so how
even
does
if
he avoid the
immediately,
Amaterasu when he's in Itachi's line of sight?
because even a mental okay.
A, this part two.
What?
You said A, or were you referring to the word Kage, or were you just saying the letter A?
Oh no, did I say the letter A? I don't remember. No, I'm not referring to that Rikage. No, I'm just saying like a mental reaction, but it's like that. That's fine. I'm just saying that like the line of sight is just not sufficient for Amaterasu. That's what I'm saying.
Why
I'm
are
saying
you
like
saying that?
Amaterasu requires more than just I can see you somewhere in my visual field. It
What does it
requires focus.
require?
It
Oh,
requires
focus.
focus. Yeah, focus, visual fixation, precise targeting of the body point, and a stable moment of execution. Like if mere presence in the line of sight were enough, then Amaterasu would be instant, unavoidable, and omnidirectional. And that's
No, not
just absurd.
necessarily. Like obviously, it requires some level of focus, but I think
Wait,
you're
hold on. Give me a second.
severely
My bad.
okay.
All right, you can. My bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think you're severely overestimating the level of focus and whatnot it takes. I think that one reason for this is the offset that it has. Like whenever Itachi uses it, he gets severely weakened. So the amount of focus that he takes isn't that significant as we see. Like whenever Jiraiya is chasing them throughout the hotel or whatever, he turns a corner and then Jiraiya turns the same corner. The Amaterasu is not only there, it already burned through the wall. It burned through the wall completely. Like he clearly activated that shit. Like as soon as he turned the corner, and then Jiraiya turns, he's like, "Damn, this shit is already done." Like they left. Like it's very fast.
Yo, Quentin, did you make the iron farm? Um, I mean, that shit particularly like it's a stamina, bro. I mean, okay, I'll just respond to this, bro. I mean that example doesn't really like prove Amaterasu requires like low focus or becomes inevitable under pressure. Like you're confusing execution speed with targeting difficulty. So I would agree that yes, Itachi's I gotta restrict it again. I would agree that yes, Itachi can ignite or like he can ignite Amaterasu quickly, but that doesn't mean that like there's no targeting window that is required and there's no fixation that is required and there's no preparation like that is
Yeah. Why are
involved.
you saying it's significant?
So what?
Why are you saying it's significant?
Significant what do you think I said when I said significant if I did say?
I don't know. Just by significant, I mean, why do you think that it has like a high like skill ceiling or skill floor?
Oh. Oh, okay. No, I get what you're saying. What I mean is it's behind my base. You're a bitch. Um what I mean is Amaterasu is just more like a precision dependent ocular technique. It's not like a passive aura or anything that requires target selecting timing and stability. Or I mean, it is something that requires those, not anything. Like it is something that requires target selecting timing and stability under like pressure. So what I mean by significant, I guess, and like skill ceiling, these things mean just like these things mean like I'm claiming that it's hard to apply decisively in like a contested combat.
That right there. Why are you saying that?
I'm just saying skill ceiling means that like the difficulty of landing is and like of landing it on like a resisting moving opponent or whatever like or under pressure or maybe like without like clean fixation or under denying counters. So that's like the real ceiling that we're talking about. And Amaterasu, it just necessarily has like a skill ceiling because like the
Yeah, I
first thing is
agree. But
just
why are you saying it's hard to do against somebody that's relative to you?
why am I saying it's
Or
hard to
sorry, not
do?
relative even, but someone that you can perceive the movements of.
Because like because like okay well it's hard to do that against because I'm not saying that Amaterasu is quote unquote hard in the sense of execution. I'm just saying that it's just it is non-trivial so to land decisively in contested combat. So even against someone you can perceive, perception alone does not collapse the remaining requirements. So Their inference literally just breaks like if I can perceive your movements, Amaterasu is easy to land. That doesn't follow. Perception answers only one thing that like answers a question that we would say like the question that perception answers like do I know where you are? That's like the only thing perception even answers.
That's not well. That's a conditional of the Amaterasu. And that's like the conditional of the Amaterasu. So
What does that mean?
that means that like if even if that's the only thing perception answers, that is the answer of Amaterasu. That's what it needs.
Simply just perception,
Nah,
peripheral?
no, that's a condition. That's like the most important condition
Okay,
of
so
the
then
Amaterasu.
what is the single condition that it needs?
Well, there's not one single. It takes multiple things.
There's not a single condition that it needs.
No, it takes well, not contact, but eye. Like you have to perceive this person. You have to have chakra manipulation. You have to have chakra. I'm putting it into your eye. Fucking hit him with it.
Yeah, it seems like there's a sequencing there, and that sequencing can be like manipulated by like not manipulated, but for per se. Like okay, let me explain this. Okay, so essentially, the reason why I feel like, well, okay, the necessary conditions and into like the sufficient conditions there. The errors like yeah, perception and chakra mangekyo activation there are like necessary for Amaterasu, but they're not sufficient to make it inevitable. That's the problem we're having. The inevitability is the simple problem. Because like if you're arguing like if this is your argument, you're saying if I perceive you and have chakra and activate mangekyo, then Amaterasu just hits. That treats Amaterasu like it's just simply a button press. But you listed prerequisites and not guarantees. So necessary doesn't equal sufficient there.
Yeah, well, I'm not. My claim was never that it's necessary or that it's inevitable. It's a likelihood argument, making a probability, right? So I'm saying that, well, with the arguments given, I think that I won speed, but even on the presumption that I didn't, like just to give you some edge, to say that Itachi or Hiruzen has some type of speed above or Itachi, you haven't given him any scaling to make it significant. To say that what he can blitz Itachi or that he can use it or he can hit him before the Amaterasu happens, like that's still your burden.
Goodness gracious, bro. I
If you
don't
want to
know.
wrap it up, we
Tracking
can.
is like really bad, bro. I mean, you're shifting into probability claims, but you're still
No,
haven't met
I've
the
never shifted.
burden.
I never said that anything I
Yeah,
said was
you're shifting into
necessary.
probability claims, but you still haven't met the burden that Amaterasu is likely to land. And I don't need to prove. I don't need to
Okay,
prove what
wait.
needs.
Sorry. For Amaterasu to be likely to land, you have to give your character speed scaling. I'm saying it's likely to land because your character has no speed scaling.
You're saying it's likely to land because my character has no speed scaling. The fuck are you
Yes.
talking? Wait, what? What does that mean?
Yes. What? You have to scale your character.
That doesn't follow. Okay,
What?
that doesn't follow.
Okay, if your character doesn't have speed scaling, they have no speed within the fight.
Listen, when I say it doesn't follow, how do you get from that I said that my character has no speed scaling?
Okay,
Give me the reason
listen.
on that.
What I'm saying, what you're saying, doesn't follow is that if your character has speed scaling or doesn't have speed scaling, then it doesn't. They don't have speed within the fight. That does follow. It's
Okay,
undefined.
okay, no speed scaling. It's not a positive case. You're arguing Hiruzen has no speed scaling, therefore Amaterasu is likely to land. That is a non sequitur. The lack of explicit speed superiority does not imply loss of reaction parity or inability to deny fixation
That
or
yes, that would
inability to
need evidence
interrupt
from your
timing.
that would need evidence
No,
from your
that wouldn't.
side.
It's not a positive claim. Can you
It
provide
is a
evidence as to
positive
why is
claim.
that a positive case?
You're saying he can what? You're saying he can stop it.
Like, is that the reason for why it's a positive case?
What you're saying something can happen? That's a positive?
No, the term no speed scaling is not a positive there. So
That's not
listen,
what I'm saying. Yes, obviously what I'm saying is a negative. But your
that's
claim
not what you're
saying
saying, but that's obviously what you're saying. I mean, okay,
no, that's not what I'm saying because I was repeating what you were saying, nigga. I was
okay,
saying your claims.
listen. Denial is a positive claim, and I have met its
Wow.
burden by already. I'm not claiming that Amaterasu can never happen. I am claiming that
That's
Itachi
nothing
cannot
to do with what
rely.
I'm saying.
Listen, I'm claiming that Itachi can never cannot reliably access the conditions needed to apply it, which is sufficient to defeat your probability
Okay, that
argument.
would only be the case if Hiruzen had any speed.
So it would only be the case that probability would be denied if Hiruzen had any speed.
Yes, to say that he can't to say that he can do anything before the Amaterasu is reached. Yes, he has to need speed. Yes, very obvious.
So that's a confusion. I'm gonna lay it plainly, please. So listen.
That's a confusion.
So listen. When you say like the speed there, that's like okay. So it's false because speed is not the granting or the gating variable for denying Amaterasu access.
What is
Access
it?
will be is access. So the
Access.
reason
What do
why
you mean? Wait, how do you access Amaterasu? What do you need?
so okay, let's apply it directly to the matchup. So against Hiruzen, anti-Sharingan doctrine denies direct gaze, movement, and
No,
pressure.
that would yeah,
Stop,
direct gaze.
stop,
Wait, I'm
stop, stop,
clarifying.
stop. So
What?
anti-Sharingan doctrine denies direct gaze, and
Mhm.
movement and pressure breaks fixation, and also
Wait, sorry. Where is
interference
that?
tools. Hmm?
Where's that? Where is it? Where is it ever said that like the pressure that they give denies any of that? The pressure only matters if their speed.
The pressure only matters. That's confusion. You'd have to give an argument for that.
What? Okay, you cannot pressure somebody if you're not as fast, or sorry, if you have no speed scaling. It wouldn't be
You're
pressure.
assuming he has no speed scaling.
You
You're
haven't
just
given
simply saying.
any. What are you talking about?
Stop doing that. Stop doing that. So you all you did was assume that Itachi is over Orochimaru. Then you were never able to debunk the
No,
notion.
no, no, no.
Stop.
I literally.
Stop.
That's
Stop.
not what
Stop.
I'm doing. Wait, that's not what
Stop.
you're
Stop.
confusing
Stop.
what I'm
Stop.
doing.
Stop. We're going into the speed scaling. All you did was prove that Itachi is over Orochimaru. You never. Your original
Yeah, but
claim is to link.
you're confusing what I'm doing.
Stop doing that.
You're
So your
confusing what I'm
original
doing.
claim. Your original claim was to link or Hiruzen and Orochimaru. How am I confusing what you're doing when all I
Okay.
said is that you're proving that Itachi is over Orochimaru?
Yes, because listen, you didn't hear when I said 5 minutes ago.
So that
that
is what you're
Yeah,
doing.
no, no, it's
But I'm
not. I'm
confusing it?
explaining. I'm explaining it. That's not what I'm doing. You didn't hear when I said 5 minutes ago that even if you assume that I lost those points and that I didn't prove that he scaled to Hiruzen, you haven't given any scaling for Hiruzen to say that he can pressure Itachi before the Amaterasu happens. That's literally what I said.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Go over this again. Do not interrupt me. This is bad. All right.
It is very bad for one of us.
So listen. You are demanding some form of explicit statement that pressure denies Amaterasu, but the
No.
demand is misplaced.
That's not what I asked for.
Because listen, pressure denying execution is not a lore claim that needs to be stated. I don't need to state that. It's a mechanical consequence of how ocular techniques work in Naruto.
Yeah, that's not what I asked for at all. It's pretty obvious what I'm asking for. Pressure only matters. Let's say there's a few qualities that goes into pressure. There's some type of ability to beat somebody. So you wouldn't have pressure, for example, if you had 100 speed and then you just did pillow punching damage, right? So you need the ability to beat somebody, and you need the ability to force this person to have to react to you. For example, speed, right? So pressure only matters if you have the speed to match it, right? Because that would
No.
make you combatant worthy.
No.
Okay.
So
Wait.
you made a probability claim. So the only thing you said repeatedly, you haven't shown Hiruzen can do anything before Amaterasu happens. That is not a requirement. To defeat the probability claim, I only would need to show Amaterasu requires a clean execution window, and the window is contestable at parity. And
Wait,
Hiruzen
the
has
window's only
proved that-
contestable by someone who has
Stop,
speed.
bro. Goodness gracious, that interruption shit is bad. I don't know why
Okay.
people when they're confused interrupt people a lot. So listen,
Oh yeah,
I
of
do
course.
not listen. I do not need to show Hiruzen blitzes or Itachi. I do not
That's
need
not what
to
I'm
show
asking
that.
you for.
Stop. I do not need to show that Hiruzen always interrupts, and I do not need to show that Amaterasu never lands.
Okay. So the period, the activation period would only be interruptible if the person had the speed necessary to do so. You have to demonstrate that.
Goodness, I don't know if you read a logic book, but that's not how probability works, bro. But listen, I'll try to even be charitable because that's
What logic book have you read?
Cider. So listen.
By who?
Okay, Theodore Cider.
What? That's not a book. That's an author.
Okay, philosophy of logic. So listen.
By Cider?
Yeah, Theodore Cider. So listen.
I'll look into it.
Interrupting Amaterasu does not require the superior speed. It just requires a contested engagement plus interference. That's the problem. So listen, the pressure model has extra and false requirements there. You're saying pressure needs one, the ability to beat someone, and the second one would be the ability to force reactions, which you're trying to speed, right? Okay, so point 2 is wrong as stated, because forcing reactions does not equal acting first. You can force reactions at a parity through things like reach advantage, like that's boxing, like say Wilder Fury, whatever, right? Like reach advantages, multi-vector like threats, or area control, or summoning and clones, and terrain manipulation, spacing denial, whatever, all that things, right? None of these things require you to be faster. And also, the Amaterasu's activation window is interruptible without speed advantage because Amaterasu is aim-based and execution-based. It's not passive. So that means that you already considered that. It's not passive, and that means if the user must maintain aim, if the user must select a point, and if the user must execute under pressure or whatever may be, or precision, then any interference during that window can break the attempt even at equal speeds.
Okay, so you asked me not to interrupt when you make multiple points, which makes it seem as though you're fine with just shotgunning me, which is okay. I'll respond to what's important there, though. So, but next time you do, I'm just gonna interrupt you. So, you said that that would mean that it would be interruptible even with equal speeds. Even if I were to presume that were to be the case, you haven't shown that Hiruzen has equal speed, but I also don't agree that that's the case, right? So, even though you haven't proven that, we'll just move along. If we have the case where there's this activation window, right, in which that you need pressure to stop somebody from activating an ability, you need speed for that, which means it necessitates speed scaling. If there's no speed scaling given, that means that there's no probability or no case in which you can say that this character is able to interrupt this ability. What are you having a problem understanding with that? Like, you have to give your character speed scaling. Not only that, but
all right, okay.
You said something about it being passive.
All right. So
well,
listen.
yeah.
So sure, the position, your position literally just collapses because Itachi over Orochimaru does not connect to Hiruzen in any valid way. So stop. So any valid way. So, and it just you're quietly relying on some illegal transvisity step across mismatched states. That's horrible. So, well, demanding speed. About? Okay, so I'll explain. Since you're confused. So,
no, I'm not confused, but no, I understand exactly what you said.
But listen. So he has zero. When you say he has zero speed scaling, okay, I'm being asked to like prove Hiruzen speed, but notice like, okay, you're asking me to prove Hiruzen speed, but notice that you're never proving that Itachi over Hiruzen in speed, and you never prove that Orochi over Orochimaru relative to Hiruzen in speed under equal conditions, and you never prove that Orochimaru encounter samples Hiruzen speed ceiling. So when you say I haven't shown Hiruzen has equal speed, the correct response would just be, goodness gracious, you haven't shown Itachi does. So where are we going from there?
Okay, cool. So even if you were to presume that to be true, obviously, like, this is the second time I said this. You haven't heard in the past 10 minutes where twice I said, I think I won the points on Itachi speed scaling, but even if you presume I didn't, which is to say that I didn't link my character to your character, that doesn't magically mean your character is now above mine, right? You still have to prove that your character has speed scaling above or relative to mine.
You're so confused when you use the word above, and you say you're not confused. Stop
using the word above or relative, buddy.
Stop using the word above. And
I said above or relative.
So. I already said speed parity is default. Speed parity is default unless broken, and you haven't.
What? So wait, is that to say that these characters are relative unless proven otherwise?
Speed parity is default unless broken.
I don't know what that means. I asked you a question.
What do you not know what it means?
Yeah, is that to say that these characters are relative unless proven otherwise?
You lag.
Is that to say that these two characters are relative in speed unless proven otherwise?
Okay, no. Okay, listen. Yeah. So basically,
yes? Is that a yes?
Yeah, it's okay.
Why are you assuming that? I don't assume that at all.
Is that to say like these characters are what?
Or relative unless proven otherwise?
Oh, okay. No, I get it. I heard something else. No, that's fine. So I mean, when you say like unless these characters are proven, the parity there is that it means that the speed is undetermined. That's what the speed parity means in the context. So we can treat them as a functionality of the parity for the purpose of the argument. So unless proven otherwise, that's pretty. So I mean, what undetermined and / parity means is that when neither side proves that, like, let's say A over B, or in speed, or like even B over A in speed, the only defensible like position really. Excuse me. The only defensible position is just literally like their speed interaction is contested.
Okay. Say. No. I actually don't think I agree with this. Say it again.
So when neither side, dude, goodness gracious, bro. Okay. So the speed parity, right? So when neither side provides any evidence to say, like let's say per se, like when neither side proves any evidence to say that Itachi overhears in speed, or Itachi overhears in like speed via proof of a blitz or whatever. Okay, like or not, A over B. Like, let's say like when neither side proves that A over B in speed, or maybe like B over A in speed. Like you see how like it goes both ways. The only defensible position from that, the only thing that follows is that their speed their speed interaction is less contested. So that is
Wait,
where the
wait.
parity
Yeah,
means, and
there's a problem in
that's
that.
where is where the parity means in debate terms. So
By
it doesn't mean that
contested,
they're
by
identical
yeah,
stats.
yeah. Hold on. By contested, do you mean that? Well, I don't assume that either. But by contested, do you mean that he can automatically contest the Amaterasu with equal speed?
It means that no one has demonstrated a reaction or movement gap, so no one can assume uncontested
Wait,
execution.
but that assumes. Wait, sorry. That assumes the execution of Amaterasu is interruptible by someone of equal ability.
No, that's not how that works.
It
So
does
let's
assume that. Wait, how are
stop.
you? How are
Okay, when
you?
I say that's not how that works, you don't have to like repeat yourself. That like you're not
Okay,
actually
but no,
applying
no, no.
anything.
When you say it's
So
not
like
how it
okay,
works,
so no contested, quote unquote
sure.
contested does not mean that Hiruzen automatically stops Amaterasu, and it does not assume that equal speed interruption by default. So it just means that Itachi does not have guaranteed access to
I
execution
never said
conditions,
that.
even under. If you're not saying that, you just conceded. I'm not gonna let you
No,
say
I never said guaranteed. Guaranteed means that's 100% true. I was always arguing for
that. Guarantee does
probability.
not have to mean necessary. That's like confusion.
What?
Please
What do you
read.
think guaranteed? Look up
Please,
the definition of
please,
guaranteed.
please read. Please
Look up the
read.
definition of
Guarantee does not
guaranteed.
have to mean.
Wait, what do you think guaranteed means?
Okay, we can go into the colloquial or something. Let's
Yeah.
see. See, this is bad for you. No, guaranteed and necessary are not the same, even though they can overlap. Guaranteed means the outcome will happen, and it is about certainty.
That's certainty.
Examples. Hold on, that's not necessary. That's not
No, no,
necessity.
no. But
You're
I never.
confused.
The problem is, you probably not
You
understanding. I
just
never
okay.
said.
Listen,
Hold on, wait. I never
stop.
said the word necessary. But certainty means that's
When I said
100%.
that,
Okay,
these
but
things are not the
listen.
same, you said they were. That's like
No,
you're
no, no.
totally
Listen.
backtracked.
When I'm saying certainty, or when I'm saying guaranteed, that means it's 100% case or 100% claim. I can't argue 100% claim off of probability. I always
It's
told you I was
not.
arguing
No,
probability.
you
Yeah,
can't. What?
I said. What the fuck? Are you listening? So I'm saying that with you saying guaranteed, that doesn't respond to my claim. My claim isn't that it's guaranteed. I never said that. It's a probabilistic claim. It's not
And I already
100%.
fucking denied it. The probability. You never like linked the probability
No, you
there.
didn't. You only denied the guaranteed. That's 100% claiming that doesn't
I
respond to
denied the
me.
probability.
No, you didn't. You can only deny the probability if you demonstrate that Hiruzen can combat the Matarasu with equal speed. You have to prove that. But I think we can wrap it up. It's okay.
No. So listen. So the contested means precisely that when you say at equal or okay, okay, no, that's it. Okay. So listen. This does not mean like let's say the speed interruption because like you keep on asking doesn't that just assume that Amaterasu is uninterruptible by someone or equal ability? No, because interruption be here is just structural and not temporal.
What do you mean by structural and not temporal?
It means that there's a preemptive interruption. So act before the technique begins, or this requires like speed and
How do you know that
superiority, or
Hiruzen would
maybe
have the
I am.
correct? How do you know that Hiruzen would have the correct preemptive interruption?
That's so, oh, bro. It's so hard debating like shit. Bro.
You
Stop
yo,
asking that. I
stop
don't have
calling me
to prove
shitty. You're
that.
dead
You
ass like
keep
a
on,
tier 4.
gang. You were horrible. What?
Gang, who have you beat? Like actually, who have you
Gang,
ever
you were
beat?
actually horrible.
Who have you ever beat?
Shinra, bad faith. Like,
Shinra.
what are we
Shinra
talking
is.
about?
I don't know who that is.
Anyways,
The fuck?
gang.
Who
Like,
have you ever beat? Who? What tier list are you on?
anyways. So let's go into
All
the
right,
conditional
exactly.
and
Please
denial.
stop. Please stop.
Gang, on every tier list, you're tier 4
I'm tier
and
2
tier
on every
3.
tier list. I
You
can
were
show you that
horrible.
consistently.
No, you were not.
Yeah, I
No, you
am.
were not.
Yes, I
No,
am.
you were not. You were
I can tell
horrible.
you who I've beat, and I guarantee you know the people I beat. So,
Who have you beat?
Godly.
Don't know. Moving on.
You, yeah, liar. Sitting here lying.
Yeah, I do not
Sitting
know
here
that
lying.
nigga. Like,
Okay,
you
that's
just literally
fine.
yapped in my ears.
You would go
You
and lose
shit.
to noodles.
I would lose to noodles.
Yes.
You're a troll, gang. You were horrible.
I'm dead ass serious. But we can wrap it up. I wanted to talk about Jiraiya versus Itachi as well, but probably just not with you.
Yo, secret. Noodles will slam you. Shad already like annihilated you. You're horrible.
That, this guy.
Yo, what's that secret? This nigga's horrible. Anyways, so listen, your probability claim fucking sucks ass. I'm not gonna lie, you got slammed. We can get like Flo or like Jose
I
to
don't know
judge.
who that is.
Your shit.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know
have
who that
whoever
is,
you
and
want.
this nigga's a
Yeah.
fiction comic.
Yeah, you can have whoever you want to judge. I don't care.
This nigga's a fiction comic guy, bro.
Yeah, and your ass at fiction. I mean, if all you do is go on IRL and then come to fiction and lose, I mean that's cool. Just stick to IRL.
Out of your own words, you said this was bad for you. I'm sorry, like this.
Yeah, sarcasm, buddy. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ, do
this was
IRL
bad for
niggas do
you.
all
This was
IRL
bad for
niggas
you.
not like do all IRL niggas not know what sarcasm is? You just take
It
everything.
was not sarcastic. You're saying
Prove
that now.
that. Wait, how do you prove that ever? Could you demonstrate that? Right, just
Because
just
it's a
stay on
social
mute.
tactic. It's a social tactic
Prove
to
that.
attempt to require.
Wait,
to,
prove
to
that.
require.
Prove that it's a social tactic in this scenario.
What do you mean by prove? What does prove mean? Define
Prove it. Demonstrate it. Give evidence.
That's not what proof means.
Okay, you can believe that. Prove that. Go ahead.
You can believe that, prove that?
Yeah.
Do you not understand how that's circular?
No, not at all. So, do you not believe proof is to give evidence? Could you demonstrate that?
When I say that it's a social tactic, what do you mean by proof?
What do I mean by proof? As in giving evidence for your claim, making sure it's the correct one. Demonstrate it.
I already provided it. The social tactic is used in order for you to say, "Oh, I did
prove
not
that
do
it's
this.
being used here.
I did not use this for the case, so therefore,
What?
it's just
Prove that it's
probably
being
case.
used here. You just sat there and stuttered and said nothing. Would you like to try again? Did you say proof is evidence? That's the definition of proof. I'm sorry.
He's an idiot. Listen. Okay, I mean, when you say proof, low tier, I'm not required to prove intent. You're an idiot. I only need to show that there's a tactic, not what is in their head. Like,
no, your claim was that your claim was that it wasn't sarcastic.
Stop speaking low tier. So listen. I'm not claiming that your intent. I am identifying a rhetorical tactic. Tactics are evaluated by structure and effect, not by mental states. You're confused on what proof means.
Your claim was that it wasn't or it wasn't sarcastic. That is claiming intent, nigga. You're claiming that it wasn't sarcastic. That means that you're claiming that it was literal, right? That was the evidence, or that was the implication of it, to say that it was literal, and to say that now that me saying that it's sarcastic was some type of rhetorical tactic. You can identify a rhetorical tactic, that's fine, but unless you can demonstrate that rhetorical tactic is
you're confused.
the case, it doesn't matter.
No, I'm not. I'm not claiming intent.
You might be on something. I mean, you can just look up the definition of proof.
I am not claiming intent. I am rejecting.
Yeah, you are. So wait, when you claim that it's not sarcastic,
stop doing that low tier. So listen, I'm not claiming intent. I am rejecting sarcasm as a defense, not asserting your mental state. So then literally sarcasm is a claim. We can say that sarcasm is a claim of how the statement should be interpreted, not proof of what rhetorical function disappears. So like, stop trying to win a little.
So how could you demonstrate that I was using the rhetorical tactic rather than the sarcasm?
What?
How can you demonstrate that I was using the rhetorical tactic rather than the sarcasm?
Oh my God. So if it was quote unquote just sarcasm, so listen. Okay. So if it is the case, because you literally demonstrated rhetorical tactic by analyzing I'm analyzing the simple function there. So listen, a rhetorical tactic is defined by what a statement does in an argument. So to test is simple as an objective. So the first step, we would just say, a statement counts as a rhetorical tactic if it advances a pressure's acceptance of a claim without providing independent justification. There's no intent and no psychology there. There's just structure, idiots. So then
that only matters from using it.
So then we would have the statement of your statement invoked authority or status as a reason to accept and dismiss my position. So listen, so that invocation there operates regardless of whether it was sarcastic.
That's not the case, but it's fine. You can have whoever you want to judge this. You kind of
He just got slammed on that. It's not the case, but that's fine. Can't refute it.
can
Spec, is
and
this your
will are
student?
two different things. You're the stupidest person I possibly ever talked to.
Because he wants to get into debating, and he just got slammed again.
Yeah, sure.
That's not the case. That's not the case, bro. You can believe that.
You want to send the rec?
That's a little tactic. That's a tactic again.
You want to send the rec?
Yeah, I'll send the rec to somebody low tier. You just got
No,
fucking obliterated.